class, and welcome to lesson 2.8, review of concepts. Inquiry. I love this lesson because it takes all the information we've learned throughout the course and puts it into a real life situation. But before we get to that, let's do some warm-ups because these could be on your unit test coming up. So here we go. For numbers 1 to 3 below, list the formula used to calculate each part. Include a diagram with each number. So first of all, just making sure you know your formulas. Slope. So slope, which is lowercase m, it's y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. Okay, length. Hopefully you've got these memorized now, folks. x2 subtract x1 squared plus y2 subtract y1 squared. Okay, and midpoint is capital M, AB, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. It says to include a diagram, folks, so let's do that. So let's just make sure we've got ordered pair A here, which is going to be x1, y1. And then we've got ordered pair B, which is here, and this is going to be x2, y2. Okay? Trying to get a count. Okay, so if we join the line there, ladies and gentlemen, okay, that tells us the distance, and if we're trying to do slope, we may do rise over run, which is y2 subtract y1. Okay, so based on that, that's the information given. All right, number 2, equation of the line given slope and a point. So that's that new y equals m x minus p plus q. So just think about it, folks. We've got a line. Doesn't really matter. Put arrows on each end. Okay, and we have a point somewhere, and this ordered pair is just going to be P and Q, and it's got to be on the line. Okay, and obviously your slope is going to be given that tells you if it's increasing, decreasing, 0 or undefined. And the last formula that we learned yesterday, folks, was the circle, and it's with the ordered pair, one of the ordered pairs starting at the origin, and that's going to be x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and don't forget that's where r is the radius. Okay, so we could quickly draw a diagram. Draw our circle, and notice that our radius is going to be from the origin out, and put an R. Make it look like an R. There we go. Awesome. All right. Number 4, fill in the blanks about slopes. Parallel lines have equal or same slopes. Okay. Perpendicular lines have, remember those two words, negative reciprocal slopes. All right. And number 5, given G lies on the circle with center 0, 0, determine the equation of the circle. Oh, this is kind of new. Maybe you did one of your homework questions like this. But what we have is we have an X and we have a Y, but we don't have the R. So we've got to determine the R. So just remember, X equals -4 and Y equals 6, and we're going to sub into the equation. And folks, if we know the left side, then we can find the right side. So it's going to be -4 squared plus 6 squared equals r squared. Let's solve the left side. So it's going to be 16 plus 36 equals r squared. And 52 equals r squared. I didn't ask what the radius was, so just leave it as r squared and go, therefore, x squared plus y squared equals 52. Awesome. Okay, now that we're done our warm-ups, now we're going to head into some real-life situations. Here we go. All right, here's an inquiry, folks, and I should have a handout for this. You shouldn't be writing this out. Okay? A tractor-trailer driving on a highway 405 is in an accident. The driver is not hurt, but quickly radios the proper authorities to inform them that there's a chemical spill. And this happens in real life, so we've got to be careful about a chemical spill. Cleanup crews arrive shortly, and nearby homes are evacuated. Residents who live less than 28 kilometers away are told that they must evacuate their homes. Okay? Residents more than 28 kilometers away are told that they are safe to stay at home, and this is the scary part. I don't know if I'd listen to this. Residents who live exactly 28 meters away are to wait for further instructions. If there's a disaster near me and they tell me to wait, I'm going to evacuate regardless. I'm going to be safe. But I'm just using this as a situation. So what I want you to think about, folks, is if there's a spill, right? Let's pretend that's at the center, okay? And we're going 28 kilometers away in any direction, right? So that's going to be a circle, right? X and Y. And you know you ordered pairs if it is 28 kilometers away. So it's going to be 28, 0, etc. Okay? That's going to be useful for us later on. Okay? But it doesn't matter. Any spot along here is going to be 28 kilometers, right? Because the radius is a circle. All right. Assume that the accident occurred at grid position 0, 0, and that each unit represents 1 kilometer. Make sure that you state the formula you're using and include closing statements. All right, so number 1 says list 2 coordinates of the locations of the homes where the family have been told to wait for further instructions. So that's on the circle, right? So let's just look up at our diagram right away. We already know we've got 28 and 0. We could also do 0 and 28. If I ask you for 2 more, you could also tell me negative 28 and 0. Or 0 and negative 28. Any of those 2 would be perfect. You could also sub in values and find more, but those are the easy ones, right? The ones that are at your axes. All right. Write the equation that describes all locations where people have been told to wait. Well, think about it. The accident spill is treated like a circle, so we need to use the circle equation. So it's going to be x squared plus y squared equals 28 squared. Use your calculator to simplify that. And you are going to have 784. All right. It says here number 3, Jared's family lives at coordinates 21 and 9. Determine whether they should have been told to wait concerning the evacuation. Or determine what they should have been told. Okay, show your calculation. So in this case, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to do a left side, right side check. Okay, and we know x equals 21, and we know y equals 9, and we're going to sub that into our equation. So we know left side and right side. So on our right side, we already know from our equation up above that's 784, right? The left side is x squared plus y squared. Sub in our values, so it's going to be 21 squared plus 9 squared. Use your calculators, folks, and you're going to get 522. Think about that. Is 522 less than 784? Yes, it is. So you're going to say 522 is less than 784. Therefore, what do you think they have to do? Are they inside the circle? Yes, they are, because it's less, so therefore they've got to move out. Okay, so therefore they must evacuate. Since they are inside evacuate the zone, which is really the circle, right? Okay, so they've got to evacuate because they're inside the evacuation zone. Perfect. Okay, number 4. Patty lives at coordinates negative 6 and 8 and has been told to evacuate her home. She plans to stay with her uncle, Edward, who lives at the coordinates 40 and negative 22. Assuming that there is a straight highway directing from her home to her uncle's, what distance will Patty have to travel? Answer to 1 decimal place. So again, folks, you realize this is the distance formula, and this is kind of funny. I'm going to do P for Patty and U for uncle, so PU, haha. It's a formula. Sorry, am I joking, you guys? Is that too funny? Can you not handle it? All right, so we're going to use the distance formula for PU. Okay, sub in our values, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're getting very good at your substitution. And I always do my square root first. So you should have 40, subtract negative, which is plus 6 squared, plus negative 22 minus 8 squared. Simplify this, you should get 3016. and take the square root. It's approximately 54.9 kilometers. So do a therefore statement because it's an application there. So therefore, Patty must travel 54.9 kilometers to her uncle's place. All right. Next page, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. It says, Patty stopped at a coffee shop, let's pretend it's Timmy's, which is exactly halfway between her home and her uncle's home. Determine the coordinates of the coffee shop. So hopefully when it says halfway, hopefully you remember that as being the midpoint. So midpoint of PU equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Sub in your information, so we've got 40 subtract 6 divided by 2, and negative 22 plus 8 divided by 2. So this is going to simplify to 17 and negative 7. Therefore, coffee shop is at location 17 and negative 7. Awesome. After returning home a few days later, Patty went downtown to run some errands. She stopped off at the grocery store, which is 1. Okay, so let's let grocery store be A, which is at ordered pair 3 and 8. Okay, as well as the dry cleaners at 5-5. Let's let that be ordered pair B. Okay, and then at the bank, which we'll let be ordered pair C. Okay. The imaginary triangle can be found by joining these 3 locations. Determine whether or not the triangle would have a right angle. Show all calculations to prove your answer using both methods 1 and 2. I'll show you what the 2 methods are, and include a good diagram. So first of all, let's include a good diagram, ladies and gentlemen. I will just draw some lines here and we'll get things set up. We have no negatives, right? So we don't have to worry about that. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at my ordered pairs. Okay, so the first one is 3, 1, 2, 3, and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 3 and 8, which is A. Okay, and I will give me a scale here of 2 and 2 so people know. And B is going to be 5, so 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's B. Okay, and C is 8 and 7. All right, so there are our 3 points. It looks to me like if we have a right triangle, it's going to be at B, but we're not quite sure. So I'm going to put it in, and then I'll put a question mark, and we'll see. All right, so method 1, folks, that you should have remembered is do the slopes and find out if they're slope perpendicular. So let's use that as method 1. I'll just use short form because you guys know how to do this. So I'll just go slope perpendicular with a question mark. So let's just break it in. We'll do slope AB first. So it's going to be 8 subtract 5 divided by 3 subtract 5. Remember, we're looking at ordered pairs AB. That equals negative 3 over 2. Now we'll do slope of BC. And that's 7 subtract 5 divided by 8 subtract 5. Okay, and that's going to equal 2/3. And then we'll do the last one. Slope of AC equals 8 subtract 7 over 3 subtract 8. That simplifies to, 1 over negative 5. Remember, folks, don't leave the negative on the bottom, so bring it out front or up top. All right, so looking at our slopes, ladies and gentlemen, what do we notice? In particular, slope of AB and slope of BC. So slope of slope of AB is perpendicular to slope of BC because of negative reciprocal slopes. Okay, so therefore we've got a negative, or angle B. So therefore angle B equals 90 degrees. Okay, because it's the one that's got in both. Okay. All right, now method 2, you may have forgotten or remember another method is using Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem tells us that two sides use the length formula, and that two sides that are the non-hypotenuse squared will equal the third side. So let's just take a look at the lengths. So if we do AB, okay, do the big length formula. So it's going to be 5 minus 3 squared plus 5 minus 8 squared. That equals root 13. We're just going to leave it as square root 13 for now. Okay, let's do BC. It's 5 subtract 8 squared plus 5 subtract 7 squared. That equals root 13. So far we've got two sides being the same. However, we got to find the third one to help us out. Okay, so the third one is going to be AC. Okay, so 7AC is going to be 8 subtract 3 squared plus 7 subtract 8 squared. And again, this is going to be root 26. Now, taking a look, ladies and gentlemen, with all the side lengths, and what we know about Pythagorean theorem is that the biggest side has to be the hypotenuse. So this has to be the height. And then you have to say, does root 26, and we got to square it because it's Pythagorean theorem, equal root 13 squared plus root 13 squared? So it's a question we want to ask. So remember, guys, that squaring and square rooting are opposite operations, so they cancel. So we're just left with 26 equals 13 plus 13, and 26 equals 26. So therefore, since the left side equals the right side, therefore we have a right angle. All right, so there's method 2 of proving that. I may not have seen that before, I just wanted to show it to you. All right, last page. All right, Miss Mercer, by the way, that's my maiden name, wants to put in a hot tub in her small backyard, but first she needs to know exactly where her property line is located. Her house is on the grid system, 6 and negative 7, okay, and we'll call that A. Okay, and her neighbor's house is at negative 2 and negative 13, and we'll let that be B. Okay, the records show that her property line is exactly halfway between the two houses. Okay, it is also perpendicular to the line segment, so be careful with that. Okay, it's halfway and perpendicular, so what does that mean, guys? We're looking for the perpendicular bisector. Okay, it says determine the equation of the property, show all your work. All right, so just remember, guys, we need perpendicular bisector. So let's start off with taking a look at our slope. Okay, so slope of AB equals negative 13, subtract a negative becomes plus 7, divided by negative 2 minus 6, and that's going to equal, simplified, 3 over 4. Okay, now we want slope perpendicular to that, so slope perpendicular equals, flip the fraction, so it's going to be 4 over 3 and change the sign. Okay, And then, so that's the perpendicular part. Now we need to get the halfway. So we need to do the midpoint. Okay? Just going to move this up a little bit. Okay? So midpoint AB equals 6 minus 2 divided by 2 and negative 7 minus 13 divided by 2. So the midpoint is 2 and negative 10. Now remember, it asks for the equation. So now we know our slope. So we're going to sub it into the equation. I'll just write that formula down. And what do we know? We know the slope that I'm subbing in is the reciprocal, negative reciprocal, which is negative 4/3. I know that my P equals 2 and my Q equals negative 10. So let's sub that all in. So it's going to be y equals negative 4/3 x minus 2 and then subtract 10. Okay, distributive law gives us negative 4/3 x plus 8 over 3 minus 10. Now just plug that in your calculator to figure that out, or you can do equivalent fractions for those old school people. So if this is 8/3, this is going to be subtract 30/3. Okay. So it's going to be negative 22/3. And that is your equation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a good way to introduce geometry into real life. So if you're into the Army, Navy, rescue, search and rescue, surveying, any of those type of careers, you're going to be using this information. Okay? So here's your homework, page 112, numbers 1AC, 2BD, 3BC, 5B, 7C, 11B, 14, 15, 16, and 18. Have a fabulous day, class.